Two somewhat similar, incredibly useful, and commonly used SAS functions are scan and substring. And today we're going to demonstrate each, and hopefully, in doing such, this will assist you when doing your research and performing your analysis for your data. But as far as this lesson is concerned, we're using some test data. So our test example data has already been loaded into our work library. So let's take a look at this data frame here, data frame test. And data frame test contains three variables: ID, name, and address. So I want to start by demonstrating the scan function as it applies to our example data frame. So the basic way that the scan function is structured is we have the function itself, which is scan, and in the parentheses we have the variable, which we'll be scanning. In this case, it's name. We have the order in which the scan will return. In this case, we're scanning right to left. And then we have the delimiter. And in this instance, our delimiter is a blank space. So we're going to perform this particular function twice on the test data. And from it, we're going to create the results of such are going to be in the test1 data frame, which will be created as a result of these functions being applied. The second scan function that we're running is we're also going to be scanning the name variable contained within our test data frame. In this case, we're going to be going from right to left, and our delimiter is going to be a blank space. In the first instance, our results are going to be stored in variable mi1, and in the second instance, they're going to be stored in variable mi2. So let's go ahead and let's run this bit of code here, and then we'll take a look at the results, and I'll explain a bit more how this particular function functions. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, so everything looks like it was successful as far as execution is concerned. So let's take a look at the data frame that we now have in our work library. So as you can see, the variable mi1 now contains observations, and the variable mi2 also contains observations. And again, this is a new data frame created from the contents of the old data frame with the functions applied. So as it relates to mi1, the delimiter was blank. So here's how this worked. So scan went left to right. So I must mention that it starts by counting everything up to the first blank space. So this right here, this counts as 1 blank space. 2 blank space, 3, and then capture what is contained in the third instance of the delimiter. So 1 is Doe, blank space here, 2 is John, blank space here, and then 3 is you, which is then captured and returned and stored in variable mi1. And you can also see this for every other instance in which the scan function was applied. Let's do another one. So for SAMK-SQL, this is 1, okay, blank space, 2, blank space, return. Return the K and store it in mi2. Or excuse me, store it in mi1. All right, so now let's take a look at how this right to left scanning worked. In this case, we're moving right to left, so we're going negative. So whenever you see negative in a scan function, or really in most functions in general, that have to do with reviewing a string character or string variable, it means that we're moving from right to left. All right, so in this case, we're still using a blank delimiter. So here we are. P counts, and then 1, stop. So we're just returning P. All right, K, 1, blank, return K. X counts as 1, stop, return X. So whether we're going from right to left by counting 1, 2, 3, or whether we're going left to right by going -1, that is how the scan function works. So we're just scanning. We're scanning our variable. We're scanning our character variable. And we're then storing whatever the scan returns as a result of what we specify in a variable of our choosing. Now let's take a look at the substring function. So this is commonly used to check for a single character value. It can also be used to check for multiple character values or to replace character values. So we're going to have a couple things going here. We're using the data step to create a new data set, which will be called test2. It's going to be created from the original test data step, or the original test data frame. And in that data frame, we're going to be looking at using the substring function, the column to scan. In this case, it's going to be name. Let me actually pull this up here. All right, we're going to be looking at name. We're going to be looking at the position in which to begin returning characters. So in this case, we're going left to right, and then we're going to be going 3. So let's just think about how that might work. Name, left to right, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we would expect MISUB to contain Doe. For the next one, looks like we've got Smith. So we'd go 1, because we're starting at the beginning of name. 1, 2, 3. So that would be sim, would be what would be stored in the next observation for the new variable, and so on and so forth. So this one, it would be SQL, because 1, 2, 3. All right. For ADDR, this is another variable we're creating, and we're looking at the variable address from our test set, and we are going from 1, and we're counting 3. So here's address, starting from left to right, actually left to right. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 0, 2. Looks like this one would be 4, 3, 2. And each value that the substring, based on what we specified, determines to be appropriate, would be stored in ADDR. Now, this is a little bit trickier here, because as I mentioned, this particular function can be utilized to replace character values. In this instance, that's exactly what we're utilizing the function for. So we're saying substring address is what we're interested in from our test data frame. All right, and go 1, 2, 3 from 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, just as we were doing. But in this case, instead of the values, instead of returning the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we wanted to overwrite the values with 7, 7, 7. So in our new data frame, test2, this will be 777 SAS Lane, 777 Cherry Valley, 777 Linux Boulevard, 777 Query Road. Why you'd want to do this? I mean, that's really for you to determine the why, but this is what we're utilizing this particular function for in this particular instance. So let's go ahead and close this and run this bit of code. successful execution, as you can see in the log. And now we have our new data frame, test2. So let's go ahead and take a look at that new data frame. And here we are. As you can see, it successfully performed this function, 1, 2, 3 in MISUB do, 1, 2, 3 in MISUB Smith or SMI, 1, 2, 3 SQL, 1, 2, 3 dry. That's from this code here. For the new variable ADDR, initially it had been applied to this address variable before it had been modified. So it went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 202, 202, 432, 432. But then when we were getting a little weird with this particular application of the function, we wanted to change the first 3 to 777. So we went 777, 777, 777, 777. And this is all in our new data frame test2. Our original data frame is completely unmodified. Because again, from the data step and the set step, we were creating another data frame based on the application of these functions from our original data frame, which was test. So that was a nice, simple and substantive look at these two important and often utilized SAS functions. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for spending time with me today, and have a great rest of the day. Take care.